like to say it's not that deep, and simultaneously it is that deep. It's both at the
Yes,
same time.
definitely. I think a lot of what's out there is this narrative of like, one, I should already know. And like, no, you should not already know. Like, that's no. And then there's this also of like, it's really people are treating the symptoms and rather than the root of the problem.
Where do you think that like money avoidance, I don't want to look, where do you think all of that came from?
Probably my mom. Yeah, so I was raised by a single mom, primarily by a single mom. My dad was in the picture, but he was more like distance. We lived in different states. And I think for my mom, the way that I saw her navigate money was just like, I'll figure it out, which is great when you're a single mom. Yes, that thought, great. And honestly, that thought works great in my own life as well. But what I realized is when I took that thought and I applied it to money, I was like, oh, this is actually leading me to avoid my finances, not like I'll figure it out, let me get out of debt or like let me build investments or like any good result, right? It was really just leading me to avoid looking at my finances.
Yeah, I'll figure it out is a really interesting one because there's so much positivity in it, like you said. And we never want to shame you for figuring, like, for doing what you got to do to survive. We
Yeah.
all got to do what we got to do to survive. But when you start using that thought as justification for, I'll always figure it out so I don't have to prioritize, I'll
Yeah.
always figure it out so I don't have to budget, I'll always
Yeah.
figure it out so I don't have to start looking at my money. It's when it becomes that it can be toxic in its own way. And at the same time, you're like, yeah, but it's a good thought. I like that about
Mhm.
myself, right? I like that I always figure it out. And I'm like, two things can be true at once, baby.
Yeah, exactly. Like when I first had that one, I think it was like gifted to me by mom, right? And so like when I first had it, it worked really well, like in going to school and like, needing money and like all of those things. But it also led me to scenarios that I could have definitely avoided. Like me not putting gas in my car and having to borrow money to get to work because I decided to go on a random road trip with a friend. Like, we didn't need to figure that out, but we then had to figure it out because you were thinking that you had to figure it out. You know what I mean? Like it put me in scenarios where I had to figure it out.
Right. The thought actually puts you in that scenario of like, well, you
Yeah.
better figure it out now
Hmm.
because, yeah, not so fun. Not so fun. Any other, like, I like to ask this question. What, and maybe you already answered it. What is your earliest memory of money?
Ooh. I think, I don't know if this is earliest, but it's the one that comes, I think it's the strongest one. Is I remember very specifically, I will never forget this. We were at this house that I hated, by the way. I hated that house, but we were there forever. And my mom was like putting something away in the closet. And she's like, oh, by the way, there might be layoffs at work. And so you might have to start you might have to start eating at school instead of taking lunch because I would take lunch. And I hated school lunch and I was devastated because I was like, I would rather not eat. Like, although I grew up poor, I am very picky in the sense of I will not eat food that I don't like. So I was like, okay, well, I guess I'm not eating lunch anymore. And that was devastating because I was like, I love lunch. I was like, I want to eat lunch. But it was very much like, well, we don't know that if we're going to have the money to actually get that extra food to give you lunch. And so, like, you can eat, but you're going to have to get like the free lunch at school.
How do you think that like stuck with you? Has it stuck with you? Has it impacted you in your business or in your money relationship in any way?
Yeah, I think we did coaching on this about the groceries and like buying more, even though I already had groceries, like obviously, like let's buy groceries, great. But it led me to buy things in duplicate, multiples, not even just two, like multiples. I didn't even know what I had. It was almost as if I was hoarding food. Um, and it was always just like there's never enough or almost like a constant preparation for an emergency even outside of food. It was like, okay, well, I got some extra income, let me go ahead and pay these bills or pay off this debt or buy this thing because I don't know when that money is going to come again, if at all.
There's so many examples of this kind of thing with food insecurity, with housing insecurity in childhood, with any kind of like memory of money that maybe wasn't the best. And I think this is where like it's helpful sometimes to be told, get your shit together. It's helpful to be told, do your budget, right? And at the same time, I think that it's so important that we always recognize that there's no unreasonable behavior. Human beings, I think, don't act unreasonably for no reason. We may
Mm-hmm.
not be able to even articulate the reason sometimes until we dive in and understand, but this is why like I just think financial shame is really a counterproductive tool because until you understand that, like, yeah, we could sit here and say, Anna, stop buying extra groceries. But if we understand the reason why, we can say, yeah, it's so understandable that you did that. And by the way, you're not a little kid anymore, right? You're not in that situation. You don't have to eat school lunch.
Yes.
um, and I'm sure you have a similar, experience with your clients, but like it's, I like to say it's not that deep. And simultaneously, it is that deep. It's both at the
Yes.
same time.
Yeah,
Do you
I think
experience that with your clients?
definitely. I think a lot of what's out there is this narrative of like one I should already know, and like no, you should not already know. Like that's no. And then there's this also of like it's really people are treating the symptoms and rather than the root of the problem. And so I see this a lot. I actually had this conversation the other day of like, oh, well, I'm going through, I'm not specifically, but, talking about people going through perimenopause and menopause. And of course, there are symptoms with that. And people kind of want to just blame like, oh, the symptom or whatever. Or even I have a lot of clients that have like maybe chronic illnesses or disabilities of some kind that, maybe they're drier than they would like, or things are more difficult, certain positions and this, that, and the other. And yes, your body is always changing. That is normal. But they're trying to like fix that, like, which is something that you can't necessarily change in the same way that I can't go back in time and change what my mom told me and how I interpreted that. And so, like, let's figure out where is this coming from? What is the actual root of the problem? Generate some compassion for yourself, for what you were taught about your body, what you weren't taught, right? And like generate compassion for yourself, those where you got those messages from, whether it was your parents, your guardians, whoever. And now what do you want to do about it? That is there. I think there's a lot of resistance about those thoughts even being there in the first place. And it's
Yeah.
like, I like to get to the root and like, okay, how does this make total sense? Now, moving along, like, let's go
Right.
there rather than just addressing the symptoms because that's really just a band aid.
And I will say too, I'll push you a little bit on that. I think band-aids save lives. Band-aids
Totally.
are important. If I'm in war out on the front lines and I am bleeding, a bandage could save my life. There's always like a time and place for every type of strategy. So financial band-aids, right? Going on no spend challenges or doing, like trying to put all your stuff on sale to generate more money. Yeah, let's use band-aids when appropriate and at the same time solve the root problem. You can do them both at once, right? Just
Right.
like I could, buy a lubricant and also work on my hormones at the same time.
Yeah,
All at the same
exactly.
time. So good. All right. We are small business, big money. And we like to talk about the money. I'm curious, like, what has been for our listeners, what has been the financial side of your business? What has been the financial journey in your business?
Yeah, so I actually never thought about, I don't want to say never thought about money in my business because I did. It was very present, but it was really the same thing. Like I jumped into business and managed my business finances in the same way that I managed my personal finances. I just didn't pay attention to them. And I mean, bills were getting paid in the same way that they were miraculously getting paid on the personal side. But that led me to spend money that I didn't necessarily have to spend. And it led me to also like not paying myself. And so, yeah, it's very much one and the same, just in a different area.
Yeah, 100%. How have you dealt with that? How have you worked on that?
Yeah, so I noticed that going back to like that food example of like wanting to hoard food, I was also like kind of wanting to hoard money in a sense, or like buy the thing, buy the platform, because I don't know if in the future I'm going to be able to afford that platform, right? Or like whatever service, what have you. So now I'm very more meticulous about what it is that I'm spending, why I'm spending it, and really taking a step back and like thinking it through, because I'm like, okay, I want this thing, okay, I'll buy it, which has its place. But particularly when it comes to business, I'm a lot more cognizant now of like, okay, why do I want this in the first place? What is this solving for? And what you taught me was like, okay, you need to recognize the problem first, not like find the program and where does the program fit or platform or what have you. It's like, what is the problem? Now going out and solve for the problem. Because
Yeah.
my business is not just there to like entertain me, while it is entertaining, but like that's not what we're doing here.
In the tech world, when I used to work in Silicon Valley, especially whenever there was a new breakthrough in technology, so it was blockchain, it was machine learning, now it's generative AI, right? Whenever there's like a big breakthrough in different types of tech, Web3, oh my God, 2021, Web3. The researchers, I was a researcher, we would always say, yeah, that's just a solution looking for a problem.
Mm-hmm.
And especially when people would try and implement it without really like ever having a problem for it. There was a lot of blockchain things. And I'm like, yeah, but what's the problem this is solving for our customers, right? And similar, like we do this in our own businesses. We go out and buy solutions and then we look for the problem.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you ever did this, but to the point of like the groceries and the hoarding, I used to, in the beginning of my business, I used to pay in full for software for the year to save the 2 months
Yeah,
before
totally.
before I even knew if I needed the software.
Yes, that actually happened to me last year. So I liked the software. So it was Monday.com, and I liked the software. I was familiar with it. I had used it before at like a company that I worked for. And I can't remember why now I like wanted it, but it turns out that in when you use it to a certain extent, when it has a lot of information, it's actually really slow. And they wouldn't let me out of the contract because I had paid all year. Whereas if I would have tried it out in my business, even though I was familiar with a platform, if I would have tried it out for a few months, I would have realized, oh, actually, this doesn't work for your business. It worked for the nonprofit that you worked for, but not for your business.
100%. It's little things like that. And it's like those little things are signifiers of bigger things. And it's all like, it's not that deep and it is that deep all at the same
Yes.
time. Okay. I'm curious, because you're, grade A money avoider. Don't even look at the account. Had fights with your friend about it for years. Why are we on the phone together? How did you decide to talk? Forget even join my programs. Like, talk to me. What got
Yeah.
you over that avoidance?
Yeah, I remember vividly before I knew you existed, I had made a decision. I think it was like the month before I like somehow found you. And I had made a decision. I was like, I need to get my finances together. Like, I this is ridiculous. Like, it was more so on the personal side, but I knew that that influenced the business as well. And I was just like, I actually don't understand this. Like, I have all the information in the world, but in applying it, I'm not actually understanding it. And I think really like that's what you've helped me develop is like this language, and I'm still learning. And it's not just about like the direct translation. It's the implication and the application of those words, right? So like I think about this, and like because I speak English and Spanish, I think of like when people are using slang, for example. So I'm Mexican, so I will say like a slang word from Mexico, but someone in Argentina is like, oh my God, why would you say that? Like, it's completely different, right? So like the context matters. And so in the same way, I can go and look up, I don't know, what is a 401k, for example, and like, okay, sure, I can get the definition, but what does that mean in the context of my question and the specifics of my own life, and like what does that mean? And I really think that like that's what I was looking for, is like the application, because I felt like I was running in circles even though I had all of this information.